It's called the Odyssey since our leading character is Odysseus, and it takes place right after the Iliad, I believe, when the Trojan War has just wrapped up. They've done the whole Trojan horse thing, and they are now, Odysseus is trying to head home to Ithaca. And then it concerns how he manages to spend nearly 2 decades at sea on his way home, even though it's a very short journey. He manages to get derailed by gods who are very angry at him. Lots of adventures, and then the whole time Penelope is trying to hold down the fort to prevent someone else from becoming king while he's gone, and his son is growing up without him. And I suppose that's and then he gets home. Ta-da!
Got it. No, that was pretty good. Mary says Odysseus sets out and has many adventures and escapades. Okay, I agree with that. That's true. So that was a pretty good summary. Hello, Cassie. Welcome to me reading chapter 2 today, book 2 of the Odyssey. What do you know about the Odyssey?
I lived in Greece with my grandmother, who was a Byzantine historian.
Oh my goodness!
Travel guide. So I know about Greek mythology, Zeus, things like that.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, Odyssey being obviously an extremely important book in essentially, Greek history. So we'll do a verbal summary of the Odyssey again. So book 1. Does anybody know what happens in book 1 approximately? What I want to do is in this series, read through book by book. I will give you guys a 2-minute summary of book 1, and then we're going to start reading book 2. So book 1, essentially, we discover that Odysseus, who is the hero of the Odyssey, has been stranded on an island. Who she is held in captivity, kind of, because there's a nymph who is in love with her, in love with him. And a nymph is basically a demigod, someone who she has some magical powers. She's immortal. Kirke, exactly. So we know that. The other thing that we learn in book 1 is that Odysseus's son, she appears right at the beginning of the book. Odysseus's son is stranded, is living in his own old house, and his wife, Odysseus's wife, is also living in the old house. Of course, he's the hero in classical mythology, in Greek mythology, and so his wife is extremely beautiful, and all the men want her now that he's out of the picture. They don't know, because obviously they don't have telephones, blah, blah, this is ancient Greece. They have no idea whether Odysseus is alive because he's been gone for 10 years. So all these suitors have moved in to Odysseus's old house and are trying to get with his wife, marry her, for 2 reasons. 1, because she's beautiful, and 2, because she will get the inheritance of a rich man. And during this time, all these suitors are also just eating, a lot of wealth in ancient Greece was having livestock. You have your own cattle, and so therefore you're rich, and they're eating up all of the livestock. So they're burning away a lot of Odysseus' wealth. So Athena, the goddess Athena, the goddess of wisdom, is I'm going to help Odysseus get home. All the gods want Odysseus to get home because he's good and righteous, except for Poseidon. So she's planning on working with Poseidon to get him home, or kind of working around Poseidon to get him home. Poseidon's the god of the sea. Athena's the goddess of wisdom. And so, and a couple of things that we know about his wife. She's very good. We'll come back to why she's good. But one of the reasons essentially is that she hasn't gotten with any of these suitors yet. And so that's important. Yes, she hasn't slept with anyone in the last 10 years while he's been gone. So yay. And then 2, his son is I got to get these suitors out of this house so I can inherit all this money. And also there's a hope that his father will come back. Athena comes down, lets Odysseus' son know that she is going to help bring Odysseus home. And so he has been sent out, the son has been sent out to say, okay, I need to go and do something about these suitors to get them out of the house. And so he's going to call a council. So that's basically where we end with book 1. I hope I didn't miss anything. Any questions on that really quick? Tiffany, anything you want to know or add about that? Or Cassie? Cassie said, it is so good of Penelope to have waited. So Penelope is Odysseus' wife, to have waited for Odysseus and have faith that he survived, though there's likely also from the angle of Penelope losing her freedoms and the issue of Telemachus' inheritance if she remarries. Yes. So Telemachus is Odysseus' son. So, yep, that sounds good. Okay. Then I'm going to ask Cassie, is there any way I can ask you can you read this? And can you read this page aloud for us? Here's the Greek. You don't have to read the Greek. But if you could read the English, the part where this green thing goes through.
Okay, soon as early dawn appeared, the rosy-fingered up from his bed arose the dear son of Odysseus, and put on his clothing. About his shoulder he slung his sharp sword, and beneath his shining feet bound his fair sandals, and went forth from his chamber like a god to look upon. Straightway he bade the clear voice heralds to summon to the assembly the long-haired
Achaeans, and that is basically, we can just think of that as a word for Greeks. So this is happening in ancient Greek. So he's saying we're going to assemble the long-haired Greeks, but that's just, well, I'll comment on that shortly. But yes, so it's just to assemble people, assemble the Achaeans who are the Greeks.
Okay. Do you want me to continue?
Please do. You're doing great.
And the heralds made the summons, and the Achaeans assembled full quickly. Now when they were assembled, they met together. Telemachus went his way to the place of assembly, holding in his hand a spear of bronze. Not alone, for along with him 2 shifts hound followed, and wondrous was grace and the Athens shed upon him. And all the people marveled at him as he came. But he sat down in his father's seat, and the elders gave place.
Great, and then just one more sentence. Perfect, yeah.
Oh. Okay.
One more sentence, sorry.
Do you want to continue?
Just one more sentence.
Among them, the Lord, what is that word?
Aegyptius, that's his name.
Odysseus was the first to speak, a man bowed with age and wise with wisdom untold.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Oh, okay.
Sounds good. So, Cassie, do you want to try and summarize what we learned in this intro to book 2? The first paragraph of book 2. What happened?
Kind of like that they met at this place of assembly.
Absolutely. So, one thing you'll notice about this is, and as you read more of the book, you will notice kind of that the difference in this ancient Greek prose style, or this is actually technically poetry, but the ancient Greek writing style or storytelling style relative to ours today. So soon as the early dawn arose, the rosy-fingered is referring to dawn. You know, you can think of her rosy fingers, her pink fingers spreading across the sky. Up from the bed arose the son of Odysseus. His name is Telemachus, but it's the son of Odysseus, the son of the hero of the book. He puts on his clothing. He puts a sword around him, and blah, blah, blah. One thing you'll notice is, like, these are called epithets, like the clear voice heralds, the rosy-fingered dawn. You kind of have the long-haired Achaeans, which are the long-haired Greeks. There are, somebody asked, are the Achaeans different than this group of Greeks? The Achaeans are a group of Greeks. I'm not exactly sure who they are, like what delineates them from other groups of Greeks. But for the purposes of this story, if you just think of it as Greeks and you have to learn all the geography of Greece, it's more than sufficient, especially for your first reading or 2 of the book. So that's one thing you'll notice kind of in their prose a lot. So the Achaeans, the Greeks, assemble quickly. This is actually in Ithaca. This is in the home place of Odysseus. This is not upstate New York, Ithaca. This is in Greece, Ithaca, and there's still a city called Ithaca in Greece as well. So they meet together, blah, blah, and wondrous was the grace that Athena showed upon him. So Athena is the Greek goddess of wisdom. So you can hear also the gods are involved. So basically, he's called an assembly, and someone is the first to speak. Okay, sounds good. Malika, is there any chance I could ask you to read? Okay, Tiffany, can I ask you to read it?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you remind me where we are starting from?
Yeah, so you could start even here. This yet even so.
Yet, even so, he could not forget that other, mourning and sorrowing, and weeping for him, he addressed the assembly, and spoke among them. Hearken now to me, men of Ithaca, to the words that I shall say. Never have we held assembly or session since the day when goodly Odysseus departed in the hollow ships. And now who has called us together? On whom has such need come either of the young men or of those who are older? Has he heard some tidings of the army's return, which he might tell us plainly, seeing that he has first learned of it himself?
Perfect.
Or is there some other public matter? Yeah.
Sounds good. Yep, that sounds good. Yeah, just just to make sure we get through everything, I've kind of like made selections from the Greek. So what do we learn here? You want to summarize it real quick?
Yeah. The people who he's gathered are wondering, why has the prince called us together? Because we haven't had any news about Odysseus since he left. Maybe Odysseus is back, or maybe they've got news of him.
Absolutely, that's possible. Absolutely. Okay, then that sounds good. Keep going here. And this is now sorry. So this is now I believe. Let me see.
Old man, not far off, as thou shalt soon learn thyself, is that man who has called the host together. Even I, for on me above all others has sorrow come. I have neither heard any tidings of the army's return, which I might tell you plainly, seeing that I had first learned of it myself, nor is there any other public matter on which I am to speak and address you. Nay, it is mine own need, for that evil has fallen upon my house in twofold wise. First, I have lost my noble sire, who was once king among you, here, and was gentle as a father. And now there is come an evil yet greater far, which will presently altogether destroy my house and ruin all my livelihood. My mother have wooers beset against her will, the sons of those men who are here the noblest.
Cool, perfect. That's good. So this is wooers. These are the suitors. These are the people who are trying to get with his mom. So what happened? What did we learn in this section?
Telemachus also has absolutely no idea why they're here together. He would inform everyone. He would know first if something happened to Odysseus. And no, actually, he doesn't know why here. He has no news of Odysseus. He would know first if there was, but he's gathered these people here to try and do something about the suitors who are here for his mother, to try and get rid of them.
Exactly. Yes. So Telemachus has called a meeting of essentially the leaders of Ithaca, the city in which they're based, and said, yeah, I'm calling this meeting because, I want my father to come back too. It's very dramatic in typical ancient Greek style that, it's like been 10 years and everyone's still like, where's our leader Odysseus? But, and he's like, I gotta get these suitors, in this translation, they're called wooers, out of the house, and they're gonna destroy my house and ruin my livelihood. So one thing I want to point out here, this is earlier. We actually had, I think, better examples in chapter 1 than we have in chapter 2. But there are a couple of like themes I do like to emphasize when we look at the Odyssey. And one of the themes, it's one of those things that it's like blaringly obvious, but I would not have seen it if it had not been pointed out to me by the teacher who I first read this with. That is that one of the major themes of the book is patriarchy, where it's like uphold the patriarchy, and I mean that very honestly. You can it almost sounds funny, but you can definitely, if you read this book, and at chapter 1 there's a lot of good examples. If we come across something here, you'll probably hopefully notice it in chapter 2. Women are like, so one of the reasons that Penelope is held very well in esteem in this book is there's a couple things. So one, it's been 10 years. She continues to be kind of in mourning over her husband. Every night she's told these suitors who are trying to get with her, and it's been 10 years, I will get with one of you. I will pick one of you to be with me after I finally finish this tapestry. So she's been every day she weaves the tapestry, and every night she unweaves it while they're asleep, so that she never finishes. So that's like one example. Another example is so the weaving. Weaving is actually a symbol in ancient Greece and also in ancient Rome of female modesty. So it's a great profession, or it's a great hobby for your wife to have, because one, no men are needed. Two, she doesn't even have to go out of the house, so there's no risk. Like if a woman who weaves a lot stays home a lot. So she's home, she's weaving. Obviously, you're getting some clothes or whatever out of it, but it's not really about that. I mean, it's partially about that, of course, but the kind of it's a sign of in Latin they call it what do they call it? Pudicitius? I can't remember. I can't remember the Latin word, but anyways, it's like a word for like female virtue, which is it's kind of like it's not quite chastity, but it's something along that, where a woman who's weaving is not going outside, so she's not meeting other men. She is, there's no chance that another man is also even going to do something against her will. So it's a weaving is like a sign of fidelity, female fidelity towards men, and Penelope is a big weaver. Anyway, so the reason I brought this up is this little passage reminds me of that a little bit, in the sense that one of the other things that we'll very clearly see, and this kind of I think differs from, I don't want to say 21st century values, but I do kind of want to say 22nd century values. I would say that already we're having a big thing where being wealthy 150 years ago was like, yeah, you are wealthy. And today it's a bit like, it's not shameful, obviously, but people, there's a bit of an anti-wealthy movement today, I think. In here, it is very clear that one of the reasons Odysseus is righteous is, or maybe I should say it this way, associated with Odysseus' righteousness is that he is wealthy. He has acquired wealth. He has potentially inherited that wealth. We don't quite know where he has the wealth from, but he defends that wealth, and his son is now kind of defending that wealth as well. So, and like Athena in chapter 1 is like, as she hears these suitors are like eating Odysseus' food, she's like, oh my God, I wish they would die. And you're like, well, that seems kind of a extreme statement to me from the goddess of wisdom, right? But it's just one of the things I like to highlight here is kind of differences in ancient Greek thinking to kind of modern thinking, and I think that's one of the important things that kind of focus on wealth is not unimportant. So. Okay, sounds good. Any other questions or comments before we move on? Does anybody see anything in this section they want to comment on or ask about? No? Okay. Then we will continue. I would love it. So here I believe I stopped with this translation because I started knowing like the these and thous. Yeah, exactly. Which I was like, I think it's a little less clear. So I actually switched at this point. I do like to show you a bit of the Greek as well, though, so you see the original text. Let me pull up this one. Fitzgerald Odyssey. Okay. Then Malika, is there any chance you can unmute and give it a try?
Yeah, can you hear my AC in the background?
Yes, we can hear you now. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry if I start coughing halfway through. I've got a cold.
No problem. You have a beautiful voice.
Thank you. Friends by Olympian Zeus and the holy justice that holds men in assembly and sets them free. Make an end of this. Let me lament in peace my private loss, or did my father Odysseus ever do injury to the armed Achaeans?
Perfect.
Is this your way?
Let's jump here. Let's jump to this part. I'm focusing on the green. So we can get through the whole chapter, I've kind of taken out selections.
Okay. And in hot anger now he threw the stuff to the ground. His eyes grown bright with tears. A wave of sympathy ran through the crowd, all hushed, and no one there had the audacity to answer harshly except Antinous, who said, "What high and mighty talk?"
Telemachus. Yep.
Telemachus? No holding you. You want to shame us and humiliate us, but you should know the suitors are not to blame. It is your own dear incomparability, cunning incomparably a cunning mother for 3 years now, and it will soon be 4. She's been breaking the hearts of Achaeans, holding up hope to all, and sending promises to each man privately, but thinking otherwise.
Very nice. Okay, so let's pause here. So, do you want to sum up, Malika, what happened in these 2 sections that you just read right here?
I think that the men are catching on to the fact that she's buying time with the tapestry, but I'm not sure.
So that's true. That's true. Anyone else want to try and sum her up? Again, it is a little weird because I am kind of grabbing selections to make sure we get through the whole thing, through the whole book, the whole book 2. I mean, but does anybody else want to kind of fill in some of the gaps here? So here we're still in Telemachus' speech, where Tiffany had just left off. So Telemachus says like, by Zeus, by God, by Zeus, and by justice, make an end of this. Make an end of. And what was it that we heard Telemachus' complaint in Tiffany's section? It's that the suitors, that the city, essentially, the people, the men of the town, men of Ithaca, are allowing the suitors to live in his house, and eat up his stuff and pursue his mother. So then his speech ends, and now Telemachus, in hot anger, throws his staff on the ground and is almost crying. He's not crying because he's a heroic Greek man, but he's almost crying, and it's so unjust, So a wave of sympathy runs through everybody in the audience. All the men of the assembly of Ithaca look at this and are like, yeah, this is, I get his perspective on this. But then this guy, Antinos, responds. He's like, oh, what high and mighty talk, Telemachus. You want to shame us, blame us that we have kind of allowed this to happen in our city. But the suitors are not to blame. It's your mother. Because she's been holding out, as you heard, who was it that Malika? Malika had 100% correctly commented on it, and said, there's a criticism here from this Antinos against his mother, who has said, because she's holding out on the suitors, she's been holding out 10 years, so it's not the suitors who are wrong, it's you. Does anybody want to respond to this or give me some? What are we as the audience supposed to think and feel? What do we think about that? Malika, what do you think? Are we supposed to agree with Antinos, or are we supposed to disagree with Antinos?
I think agree, just because it's at the point now to where he's had enough of it.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Thomas, I see you just turned on your camera. Hello.
I feel like it's kind of like a rebuttal to what Telemachus is saying, and he's like, well, actually, it's, she's kind of stalling out here, and let's get on with it. So I guess it's kind of like the classic kind of old Greek thing where it's like there's the statement, the rebuttal, and then the rebuttal to the rebuttal.
Yeah.
So this kind of rebuttal part.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Other thoughts?
I think Telemachus is kind of appealing to emotion a little bit, like especially to the audience. He's appealing like, hey, Odysseus is still alive. We know that. He doesn't. He hopes. But he's like saying, hey, we should like get my kingdom back. But and Antinos is coming from the very reasonable perspective of people who actually live in Ithaca, that the king has been gone for 10 years and the queen hasn't chosen a new king, essentially. And like he's meant to come from a very reasonable perspective within the narrative, like within like his actual setting. But like as the readers, we're meant to know that he's wrong. He's the wrong perspective, even though he's reasonable from his own perspective.
I think that's pretty well said. What I think is interesting. So I think a couple of things. I think I have actually never considered the reasonability of the of the internal the perspective from his own narrative. What I do, so that's very interesting to me, and I see the logic there, and I'm just kind of considering that for the first time. A couple things I do want to comment on really quick. So again, I don't believe any of you guys were here last week for book 1, But last week in book one thing that we do know, I can't remember who just mentioned this, and I didn't say this at the beginning, but so Telemachus is essentially sure that his father is still alive and his father's on the way back now. How is he sure of that? Because, as I mentioned, Athena goes and I believe I mentioned this, and goes and visits Telemachus, disguised as a human. However, uh, Telemachus at the end realizes that his conversation was with a god, and so therefore, the information that this is what he should be doing, that he should call this assembly, and that his father's still alive, it's a divine message. So Telemachus is definitely doing the right thing, from the perspective of the Greeks. Like, he's been given a divine assignment to, have this conversation, and so we know that Telemachus is doing the right thing. The one thing I notice here is, like, there's sympathy through the crowd. Also, I do believe that we are supposed to be aware that Telemachus is also doing the suitors are portrayed very negatively consistently throughout the book. And again, I kind of have the benefit of seeing that in book one. So I suspect that we are primarily supposed to disagree with Antinos here. But again, I totally see the point around it being valid within their own perspective. And honestly, as you say that, like, I'm kind of like, not that I'm like, oh, she has to remarry, but even from a modern perspective, I'd be like, I mean, I know you lost your husband, but it has been 10 years. It doesn't mean you have to get remarried, but, like, you do need to move on, kind of thing. So I think there's some validity to that. But again, I wouldn't view that from being biased by, like, the divine messaging of he's coming home now, blah, blah, blah. If somebody told me that, I'd be like, well, take a deep breath and see how you feel in a couple of weeks. Okay, sounds good. So, Thomas, welcome. Can you see this green, or can you see this green thing here? Would you be willing to read this? We're just reading the parts with the green marks because we're trying to get through the whole book two in today. So just the parts of the green marks.
Here's an instance of her trickery. She had her great loom standing in the hall, and the fine warp of some vast fabric on it. We were attending her, and she said to us, young men, my suitors, now my lord is dead. Let me finish my weaving before I marry, or else my thread will have spun in vain.
And keep going here.
So every day she wove the great loom, but every night by torchlight she unwove it. So for 3 years she deceived the Achaeans. But when the seasons brought the fourth around, one of the maids who knew the secret told us. We found her unraveling the splendid shroud. She had to finish them, although she hated it.
Sounds good. So what did we just learn here, or what happened here? Because you actually even missed the explanation earlier. So what happens here? What did we learn?
She's weaving the thread, and she's unweaving it at night.
Okay, and who is she?
Oh, Penelope, Odysseus' wife.
Very good.
Queen of Ithaca.
Okay, sorry. So keep going. I didn't interrupt. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no worries. And so, like, either it's grief or waiting, or a little bit of both. She kind of makes like this arbitrary kind of goal of making this big quilt, or splendid shroud, and so she's putting it together, and then makes it look like she's doing some progress, and then she undoes it at night, kind of like in front of everybody she has a certain face, but back behind she's like still holding on to the past.
Right. So exactly right. So exactly holding on to the past, or so in a certain sense, like, that holding on to the past critique feels very fair. I do think, because one of the things I care about as we read this is kind of I do care to kind of read out the ancient Greek value. So one of the other things that's very interesting about the Iliad and the Odyssey, not only are they great works of literature, but they are also literally the school text that you would learn to read and write in ancient Greece. If you were privileged enough which very few people would be. But like literally like 1%, around 1% of ancient Greeks is estimated could read. But if you were going to learn to read and write in, for example, Athens, this was written in about 400, 500 years prior to kind of the bloom of Athens in like the 4th and 5th centuries BCE. And so, but in Athens, for example, this would actually be the text that you learn to read and write with. So there's no books, there's obviously no printing press, and all texts are handed down. The only way you can have a text is if you get a handwritten copy of it. So you would go to school, you would learn to read and write, and as how you would learn to read and write is actually by copying down the Iliad and the Odyssey. That's actually how you would do it. And so when you finished these two texts, you had your own copy of the Iliad and the Odyssey that you wrote in your own hands. Like you wrote it in your hand, and that's how you had a copy of it. Now, the point that I make here is, what is one of the reasons that these texts were selected to, not only because they're great works of literature, but also because they convey the values that we want to pass along and teach our children. And I do think that one of the major values that is being, passed along here is Penelope is a hero, which she definitely is, and that's kind of clear at the beginning where the gods all support Odysseus and his family, but it's also clear at the end where in the ancient world, even more so than today, we had this kind of like we have this impression that things happen not just for a reason, but that so in German it's called the Tun ergehen Zusammenhang, which means like it's all over. For example, the Old Testament, it's like the righteous become, for example, wealthy because the divine powers reward them for their righteousness. So there's kind of this like belief in rewarding in this life. Like if you make good choices, then you become wealthy. We obviously have that to some degree. If you do good in school and make all the right choices and you treat people fairly, then at the end you'll be successful. We try to build our societies around this principle. But in the ancient world, I think even more strongly than today, that there is a belief in rewarding you in this life for your righteousness, essentially. And so it's a very conservative mentality. And my point here is just, sorry, this is a lot of words, but my point here is that Penelope is a hero because of, at least partially because of her chastity, at least partially because Odysseus is the hero and he's going to get back and he's going to get with Penelope, and she hasn't slept with anyone in the 10 years that he's been gone, and that is terrific. Now, there's a certain irony there, of course, because as we'll see, Odysseus has done. We already know he's slept with the nymph Calypso, for example. So obviously the double standard exists, but that's not really something that's emphasized in the text here. It's a conservative mentality by today's standards, by any imagination. So, okay, sounds good. Sorry, I talked a lot there. Any comments before we move on, or anything anybody want to comment on in this section?
So is there kind of like a double standard between, like I guess men's promiscuity and women's? I guess there still is to some degree, but like it's like very much, kind of solid, set in stone. Like
absolutely,
this way and that way.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. There's just there's no doubt about that. Yeah, but again, and so as we mentioned, I think one of the I don't know if you were here for this part, Thomas, but one of the major themes of the book is definitely like uphold the patriarchy. Like that's what my feminist professor, who I first read this book with, taught me. But she is 100% right. Like if you read this book and you don't come in understanding that one of the values of the that's being conveyed is like uphold the patriarchy, then you are missing something. And women who uphold the patriarchy, Penelope, for example, again, she is a hero at the end of the book. And women who kind of challenge the patriarchy and have power over men, Calypso as an example, are not remembered positively in the book. So absolutely. Okay.
For sure.
Any other comments? Tiffany, you have any comments on the weaving here, the weaving and unweaving?
I said a bit earlier in the chat, but this is technically, I believe this is Odysseus's funeral shroud, which is a key part of ancient Greek funerals. There would be a shroud that would burn, presumably with the body, but also they wouldn't have Odysseus's body, so it would be burned in his place, and it would be required for the actual funeral. So she's not just weaving it for whatever's sake, she's actually weaving it for the process of his funeral. So it's sort of like an acceptance that the king is dead, a whole like thing. So like her unweaving it every night is also symbolically her saying he's not dead. I can't make it to the end because he's still alive.
That's credible to me. That's very credible. That I don't know that for sure, but that makes sense to me. Absolutely. Cool.
Makes
Okay,
more
Tiffany.
sense than just some random quilt for sure.
Absolutely,
Let's
yeah.
say
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Okay, Tiffany, you want to pick up you actually we'll just extend this one from right here. You want to pick up here and then jump down to here?
Me? Yeah, sure.
Go for it.
Now here's the suitor's answer. You and all the Achaeans mark it well. Dismiss your mother from the house, or make her marry the man her father names and she prefers.
Perfect.
Wits like Penelope never were before, but this time, well, she made poor use of them. For her, here are suitors eating up your property as long as she holds out a plan some god put in her mind. She makes a name for herself, but you can feel the loss it means for you.
Beautiful. Okay, I actually think that's pretty. I think that's pretty clear. You want to sum up, I don't even think we need to. So basically, the message is dismiss your mother from the house, send her out of the house, and say, either kick her out of the house so these suitors get out of the house, which Telemachus is obviously not going to do, or make her marry the name that her father names and she prefers. So obviously her father is still involved in the process of who she's going to marry. She's saying, "Oh, look how clever she is for this weaving and unweaving." But this she made a poor use of them. Why? Because your wealth, you Telemachus. This is still this man. I can't remember his name. But this is still the criticism that we're hearing. The response to Telemachus: your mother is making poor use of your wealth right here. So I think that's relatively clear. Okay, and then do this little section right here, Thomas, and then we'll hand it off to somebody else.
But clear-headed Telemachus replied, Antoninus, can I banish against her will my mother who bore me and took care of me?
Okay, beautiful. And so his response to that is, just in one sentence summary, is, yeah, I'm not kicking my mom out of the house, obviously. Like, the mother who bore me and took care of me, I'm not going to kick her out of the house so I can have money. Also, by the way, you are doing a good job, Thomas. I keep saying Telemachus, but it is Telemachus, I believe. At least it looks like here, I can see where the accent is, Telemachus. This would be Telemachus, but I learned it as Telemachus, so it's going to be hard for me to unlearn that, but I actually believe you're right. I do believe it's Telemachus. So I do apologize if I'm misleading anyone on the pronunciation there. I'll try. Cool. Okay. So, Cassie, back to you. Do you want to pick up here?
Okay. If you choose to slaughter one man's livestock and pay nothing, this is rapine. What's rapine?
Rapine is a plunder, forcible seizure of another's property, the act of plundering.
Oh, interesting. Okay, thank you. And by the eternal gods, I beg Zeus, you shall get what you deserve. A slaughter to hear and nothing paid for it.
Sounds good. So you can keep going.
Oh, okay.
So that was the end of Telemachus' speech. That was the end of Telemachus' speech. Exactly right. Keep going now.
Now Zeus, who views the wide world, sent a sign to him, launching a pair of eagles from the mountain crest in gliding flight down the soft blowing wind, wing top to wing tip, quivering tops, companions till high above the assembly of many voices. They wield their dense wings, beating, and in havoc drops on the heads of the crowd. A deathly omen, wielding their talons, tearing cheeks and throats, then veered away on the right hand through the city. Astonished, gaping after the birds, the men felt their hearts flood, foreboding things to come. And now they heard the old Lord Halither? How do you pronounce that?
I'm not sure. It looks like it says Halitherses. That I don't know.
Okay, great. Son of Mastor, keenest amongst the old at reading bird flights into accurate. Oh, I lost my place.
Reading bird flights into accurate speech. Perfect. That's even that's perfect. So, Cassie, what happened here? So you want to summarize either or both of those paragraphs?
Just that this bird died landing in a group of people. Maybe
Yes. Exactly. No, you're right about that. So let me just start here by summarizing this. Is anybody? So this is the end of Telemachus' speech, really quick, because I did kind of not. I should have made you summarize this here. Basically, the end of his speech is he's saying, if you choose to slaughter a man's livestock and pay nothing, this is plunder. So I beg the gods that you shall get what you deserve, a slaughter, and nothing paid for it. So again, that's kind of that conservative mentality that I've been talking about that we also saw in chapter 1, where they're like, I hope they die. I hope these suitors die for eating all of my goods. You're like, today I'm like, oh God, but this is one of the heroes of the book, and so it does kind of show that mentality. So basically saying, he ends his speech kind of speaking righteously to the crowd, being like, these suitors ought to die for eating my stuff. And that's the end of it. Okay, so now what happens at the end of the speech with this big finale that Telemachus just had that we just heard about, Zeus, who is the god who is the most the chief god, sends a sign. This sign is a pair of eagles who fly down and circle above the group. And they drop onto their heads of the crowd, which they consider a deathly omen. And they show their talons, and they tear cheeks and throats. So actually the eagles come and scratch up the men who are listening to Telemachus, and then veer away. And the men are like, "Oh my goodness!" They're following the birds, and they're all of a sudden all these men are afraid. So I will comment on this in just one second, but. So let me see, Tiffany. What do you know? Like, what do you know about birds in the ancient world? Do you know anything about birds in the ancient world?
Nothing in particular. I know the eagles are symbols of Zeus, for their might, and an eagle is also the bird that is assigned to the giant Titan thing, Prometheus, who gave fire unto people, and an eagle is what eats his liver every day to punish him.
Oh, okay. Is that an eagle? I see. I wasn't even sure it was an eagle. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay,
I believe it's an eagle.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Mm-hmm. One of the things that the ancient Romans and Greeks used to do is, like the Romans I know in particular, I discovered it about the Greeks, I guess, through this, and I'm projecting the Roman interpretation onto the Greeks here, but when I read this, I'm pretty confident it's correct. Is that birds are a sign of are basically a sign, they're an omen from the gods, and so for example, here we have a thing where two eagles, obviously the men don't know that these birds came directly from Zeus, right? But two eagles appear and interact with the men. That is a sign to them that this is a divine omen. So that's very clear. So birds are, when birds appear, it is usually a sign that they carry a message from the gods. The other thing that happens, so this is called augury. So I'll give you another story in the ancient world where the birds are very relevant. So in the formation of Rome, there's the legend of how Rome, the city of Rome, which becomes the Empire of Rome, was founded. There's Romulus and Remus. I'm not going to run through the whole story because I don't actually even have it 100% right in my head. But they're two brothers who found Rome, and what ends up happening is they disagree on who should be the ruler of Rome, and so they turn into this what's called augury, the ancient Roman tradition of, or I don't know if tradition is the right word, but it's the ancient Roman practice of divining through looking at birds. Divining looking at birds meaning, okay, these birds come from the gods. They're sending us a signal. What is the truth? In Romulus and Remus, they're like, okay, whoever sees whoever sees the birds is the one who is the rightful ruler of the city. This is Romulus and Remus, the two brothers who are trying to found Rome. Well, Remus sees 6 vultures first. Then Romulus, a short time later, sees 12 vultures. So then they both have a claim, no, I got the birds from the gods, not you. Because Remus is like, I saw them first. And then Romulus is like, I saw more of them. And so then it's unclear, actually, who is the rightful ruler of the city. How does that end up being resolved? Romulus kills Remus. So then we've solved the problem with the birds, right? But my point is just that in the ancient world, in ancient Rome and Greece, the apparition of birds is seen as a signal from the gods. So that's my point there. You basically have somebody who is going to stand up and comment on reading these birds now. So who hasn't read in a short time? Tiffany, have you read recently? If not, well, hand over to Malika, but I think you might. It might be your turn.
I don't believe so, so
Okay.
I shall pop in. Okay.
You can start right here. So this is the augurs, the diviner's interpretation of the birds.
Mm-hmm. We love a bird interpreter. Hear me, Ithacans, hear what I have to say, and may I hope to open the suitors' eyes to the black wave towering over them. Odysseus will not be absent from his family long. He is already near, carrying in him a bloody doom for all these men, and sorrow for many more on our high sea mark, Ithaca. Let us think how to stop it. Let the suitors drop their suit. They had better, without delay. I am old enough to know a sign when I see one, and I say all has come to pass. For Odysseus, as I foretold when the Argives massed on Troy, and he, the great tactician, joined the rest. My forecast was that after 19 years, many blows weathered, and all his shipmates lost, himself unrecognized by anyone, he would come home. I see this all fulfilled.
I think that's good. Let's even pause here. Let me just see what comes next. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay, you want to summarize what you just read?
This bird interpreter has interpreted a lot from these birds. He's saying that he's previously said that Odysseus will return after many trials and that he will come in unrecognizable form. No one will know it's him. And now he's saying this will definitely come to pass. He will come back, essentially.
Yeah. Absolutely. Beautifully summarized. Terrific job reading. Terrific summary. I totally agree with it. Now, I'm going to ask you a quick question. Actually, I'm just gonna comment on it here. So one of the things that we see consistently in Greek literature, in both poetry, but also drama, is when you see an oracle, a divination, when somebody makes a prophecy. That's the word I'm looking for. When there's a prophecy, the prophecy I have yet to read. I've probably read 50 pieces of literature, which may not sound like that many, and it's probably not. But that's about what I've realistically read. Maybe it's 60. I don't know exactly. Anytime there's a prophecy, the prophecy comes true. You can just trust in ancient Greece, if there's a prophecy, it's usually going to happen in a way that's slightly unexpected, but the prophecy comes true. So here we are seeing, experienced, who is keen at reading bird flight into accurate speech, who's keen at prophesizing what birds mean, making a prophecy. Odysseus is going to come back and nobody's going to recognize him. And this is going to happen. So what do we think is going to happen? Exactly that. Exactly that is going to happen. So little spoiler alert. So I am not familiar with that. What is that you just posted in the chat, Thomas?
Oh, Chekhov. It's Chekhov's gun is the concept that if you introduce a gun in the first act, it will be fired by the third. So Chekhov's prophecy is that if there's a prophecy, it's gonna come true.
Got it.
Just a little joke.
Got it. Well, it's in my experience with ancient Greek literature, it is true, and I can spoiler alert here, even though it's not so bad, that this is probably going to come true. One of the interesting things about reading this book together is, like I said, I've read this story. I've read this story realistically, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now, something like that. I think this is my 4th time, if I'm not mistaken. Although the Iliad, I actually haven't read the whole thing start to finish. But anyways, the ancient Greeks, like, this was like the story. Like, this was like the story that you read. I mean, this and the Iliad were like the stories that you read. So it's kind of funny that, like, when we read this, like, obviously we're getting a different perspective almost than any ancient Greek person over, like, the age of, like, I'm making up this number, but like 5, because this is just something that came up all the time. As we said, this was your story in school, blah, blah, blah. So it's not about, like, surprising the reader. It's not about, like, tricking the reader and being like, oh my goodness, that's how it ends. Because the point of this story is not to catch you off guard with, like, how you're surprised how it all comes together. The point of this story is it can be a story that's told again and again and again and again. And so that's kind of the perspective that we should read it from. That I know it's new for us, or for many to most of us, but for an ancient Greek, this was just a story that you read many times in your life, or heard many times in your life.
I feel like the Odyssey is almost like the Bible or a lot of religious scriptures in a way, in that it's less about the actual story and what the stories are trying to teach you. Like with, like, the Bible and stuff, Jesus is always teaching, hey, like, turn the other cheek, show kindness, but show other people's faults by pushing to the extreme and showing, like, through example, how bad they are. And, like, the Odyssey, like, of course, they're, like, teaching, like, uphold the patriarchy, be faithful as a wife, etc. Like, there's loads of things. It's just like you were saying, these are things that people would learn how to write and read. So these are things people carry with them. So of course you want moral lessons within them.
Right. Okay. So I think I misunderstood what you were saying before, but yes, I agree. Absolutely. There's a lot of moral lessons here. And one is, so what are some of the virtues that you can't really get out of it at this point, from what we've read today in chapter 2, that doesn't really come forward. But, like, one of the things that I think chapter 2 kind of represents is Telemachus becoming a man, essentially. And a part of how Telemachus becomes a man, that journey kind of starts in chapter 2. Even starts a little bit in chapter 1, because he was, like, Odysseus' son, and he's becoming a man. Odysseus, like, why is Odysseus the leader of the group? It's because he's the bravest. I mean, he's also physically strong. Obviously, all that is extremely emphasized and quick-witted and blah, blah, blah. But, like, he is extremely brave. Telemachus, we can hear this is where he's kind of, like, standing up in front of the group and trying to do something a little bit brave, and you can hear there's, like, the woundedness. There's tears in his eyes before. Like, you probably wouldn't see tears in Odysseus's eyes. I may eat my words later over that, but I don't think so. And so, yeah, like, one of the another value that's here is definitely, like, men are brave. Like, that's something else. So. I don't know why. I don't know what you said that made me think that I wanted to say that right now. So I'll just stop here. Malika, but great point, Tiffany. Great point. Malika, do you want to pick up here?
Yeah, sure. But Polybus, son of
Eurymachus, yeah.
Eurymachus retorted, "Old man, go tell the omens for your children at home, and try to keep them out of trouble. I am more fit to interpret this than you are. Bird life apparently is found in the sunny air. Not all of it significant. For Odysseus, he perished far from home. You should have perished with, then would be spared."
Sorry, you should have perished with him. Perfect. Very good. And then we're gonna drop down. We're gonna drop down here.
Before the whole assembly, I advised Telemachus to send his mother to her father's house. Let them arrange her wedding there and fix the portion suitable for a valuable daughter. Until he does this, courtship is our business. Vexing though it may be, we fear no one. Certainly not Telemachus with his talk. We'll share his meat, no thanks will feed to him, as long as she delays and maddens us. It is a long long time we've been waiting in rivalry for this beauty. We
Very
could have
nice.
gone.
Perfect. And so what does this mean?
I think they're deciding to give up this feat of waiting around there. I'm not sure.
So it's actually the opposite, right? So it's actually somebody, I don't know who this is exactly. I don't have all of them. So somebody replies to that, oh, like we just heard a prophecy from a very wise oracle who interprets birds, and this other he's old, by the way, which I do actually think that like that experience is kind of his experience. We kind of think of like the ancient world as like they valued the experience of old people more than I think we do today, and I do believe that to be true. So, anyways, we have this young guy being like, "Oh, stop telling us what this divination means. A couple of eagles just attacked us. Who cares? It's not a big deal." The before I before the whole assembly, I'm going to tell Telemachus to have his mother go go get married, essentially. And until he does that, we're gonna keep eating all the food. We're gonna keep eating up Odysseus' wealth. She should get married now. Blah blah blah. So that's basically what we hear. So I think we're supposed to interpret him as kind of impertinent. I think we're supposed to interpret him certainly as he is this young guy who's ignoring an oracle, a prophecy, which is always a bad choice in ancient Greek literature. And we're gonna eat his food, and we're not gonna give him any money for it. So, and I'm gonna keep doing exactly what we've been doing. So it's supposed to be kind of a negative, impertinent view, I think, of the suitors. Okay, do you want to, Malika? That was not that long, so you should finish this page.
Yep. Clear-headed Telemachus replied to this: Eurymachus and noble suitors all, I'm finished with appeals and arguments. The gods know, and the arcanes know these things, but give me fast ship and a crew of 20 who will see me through a voyage out and back. I'll go to sandy Pylus and then Sparta for news of father since he sailed from Troy. Some travelers tell, perhaps of rumored fame, issued from Zeus himself into the world. If he's alive and beating his way home, I might hold out for another weary year. But if they tell me that he's dead and gone, then I can come back to my own dear country and raise a mound for him and bury his gear, with all the funeral honors that benefit him, and give my mother to another husband.
Sounds good. So what did Telemachus just say?
Is he going out to try and find him? And if he doesn't find him, then he'll hold like the funeral processions and then proceed with giving his mother to someone else.
Perfect. Very, very, very well said. So he's asking the I sense the city council, I guess, to give him a ship. So and 20 people that he can go and do exactly what you just said. I don't really need to repeat it. It was perfectly explained. So he's going to go look for his father, and figure out where he is. He's going to talk to people, figure out where he is. He'll hold out for one more year. And try and find his father. He'll if people say that his father's alive, he'll wait for his father one more year. And if his father's not home at the end of the year, then I will come back. So I want one more year. And by the way, if when I go out and people tell me he's already dead, then I'll already give him away or give away my mother now. Again, it's kind of a weird thing from our concept today. I'll give her away. We'll send her off to her next husband. But that's the idea. Thomas, you want to read this?
Yeah, sure. What sickens me is to see the whole community sitting still and never a voice or hand raised against them, a mere handful compared with you. Lycoris, Enor's son, replied to him, Mentor, suppose Odysseus himself indeed came in and found the suitors at his table. He might be hot to drive him out. What then? Never would he enjoy his wife again, the wife who loves him well. He'd only bring down abject death on himself against those odds.
And then right here?
The assembly broke up and everyone went home.
Okay, perfect. So that's just kind of the parts I wanted us to get out of this end of this speech. What happened here? Can you follow? I know we jumped around, so it's not 100% clear to you maybe, but what do you think happened?
I'm guessing this is Telemachus talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At first, and
yeah.
he's like, why?
Oh, sorry.
Like
Keep going.
we're
Sorry.
all sitting here, and what if he comes back, and like, what's he gonna think of all this? What's Odysseus gonna think of all this? He's not gonna like it at all.
Absolutely.
His all his stuff is gone, and everybody's trying to take his wife's hand in marriage, and
right. So
he's out fighting a battle and trying to get home, and
very good.
But it's still working under the assumption that he's still alive, which he knows like through the gods and stuff. But it doesn't seem like other people are quite buying it, even though the eagles just attacked and such.
Yeah. So this isn't, and of course you could not know this. This isn't Telemachus, which is a very good assumption to make even without knowing that. This is a friend. This is a guy. I'm going to actually add that in case I ever do this again. But this is a person who's a friend of Odysseus. We don't need to know more than that. And he says, just like you said, I feel sickened that the whole community is doing nothing about this. And no one's ever spoken against this, blah, blah, blah. Then one of the, I don't know if he's a suitor or son of a suitor, makes the point. He says, you know what? You say this is something that we should fix. Like, let's say Odysseus actually comes home and he finds all these suitors living in his house, trying to get with his wife, eating all of his stuff. What's he going to do? He's going to try and kill them. This is ancient Greek thinking, right? He's going to try and kill them. That's how he's going to respond as a reasonable man. He's going to try and kill them all, of course. So, but the problem is that when he tries to kill them all, he's still not going to get to have his wife back anyways, because all the suitors, when he tries to kill all the suitors are going to come together and kill him first. There's no way, we don't care how strong Odysseus is, there's no way that all these suitors who are living in Odysseus' house are not going to be able to get him together. And that's basically how the assembly breaks up. Does anybody want to pause or comment on this? Any thoughts that come up here? Because I'm going to reveal some stuff in a minute. But any thoughts there?
I mean, knowing how the Odyssey essentially ends, this is really funny as a prediction, quote unquote. This is not a real prediction because if everyone knows how the Odyssey ends, Odysseus does single-handedly kill all the suitors. So this guy's just fully wrong.
Right. Right. And I do think that this is a line that's designed kind of for the that's a great commentary, Tiffany. Exactly right. And I think this is my personal interpretation. I kind of like you're saying, it's funny. It's comedic value. It's kind of a dark humor if we think about it as well from a modern perspective. I don't know if they would have considered it dark humor then, but that the second time you hear this story, and the second to the 100th time you hear this story, every time you hear this, they're like, yeah, but actually Odysseus is going to kill them all. And so there's a certain irony there, but it's a fair point. I think the suitor's making a fair point. Like, well, he's never going to be able to kill. I don't know if it's a suitor, the suitor's son. He's making the point like, well, he's never going to be able to kill all the suitors, which is wrong. So and on that note, the assembly ends. So that's kind of funny. Okay, that was pretty short. So do this page too.
Athena was nearby and came to him, putting on Mentor's figure. Is this guy's name Mentor, or is he just the mentor?
It is. The guy who just spoke.
Is the name Mentor named after him?
Nope, it's his name. His name is Mentor. Yep. It could be. I don't know if that's true. Okay. I don't know if... I doubt it. I think it just happens to be his name.
Mentor's figure and his tone, his warm voice and a lucid flight of words. You'll never be faint-hearted or a fool, Telemachus, if you have your father's spirit. And he finished what he cared to say, and what he took in a hand and he brought to pass. The sea routes will yield their distance to his true son, Penelope's true son. I doubt another's luck would hold so far.
Very nice. And then you can keep going here.
Hundreds of ships are breached on the sea-girt Ithaca. Let me but choose the soundest, or old or new, will rig her and take her out on the broad sea.
Okay, very nice. So what happened here?
He's getting ready for his journey, gonna go find his dad, or gonna try to figure out what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is this? What is this? Athena was nearby and came to him, putting on Mentor's figure and his tone. What does that mean?
She's like shape-shifting or something. She's like,
Exactly.
she made herself look like this guy to give, because maybe if like she told him as herself, he would take it differently than like from this guy named Mentor, who might be his mentor as well.
Yeah.
His dad is gone.
So one thing is there is a point, like I'm assuming I'm kind of extrapolating here. I don't but I'm extrapolating. So there is another story where how one of the gods or goddesses is born. I can't remember who it is, but basically one of the gods or goddesses, Zeus is the chief god. He gets horny a lot, and he comes down and has sex with whoever he can, essentially. And so one of the people, he's sleeping with a beautiful girl at some point, but one of the things that she asks him, she knows it's Zeus, but he puts on a human form. He kind of does the shape shifting thing and puts on a human form and is sleeping with her. But a serpent or somebody who wants to destroy the girl, I don't recall the myth exactly, but I believe it's a serpent. At some point tells the girl, like, but don't you want to see Zeus in his full form? Like, don't you want to sleep with like Zeus as a god and not as a human? And says that to her, and she's like, yeah, I do. I want to sleep with Zeus as a god and not as a human. So eventually she begs Zeus to reveal his true form to her, and he starts sleeping with her, and she explodes because no human can handle a god in their true form. They're just too beautiful, so beautiful that we will literally explode if we interact with one in its true form. So, and that's actually, and then of course the girl's dead, but then the serpent wins. I believe it's a serpent, and so the girl has died. But actually, one of the gods, the girl is somehow pregnant. I believe this is the god that Zeus bursts out of his thigh. I believe he like picks up the baby, the fetus, essentially shoves it in his thigh, and that's how one of the gods is formed. I don't recall. I may be mistaken on that part. But anyways, my point here is one of the reasons why the gods.
It's Dionysus, I believe.
Okay, Dionysus. Okay, so the one of the reasons why the gods put on human form is one, so we don't explode out of their beauty. But two is definitely she's definitely trying to kind of trick him a little bit. So that was just a fun side note. Sorry, anything else you wanted to say, Thomas, on this point?
I know that Athena came to be because she was like his headache.
Yeah.
I think that's how she was born. She was a headache, and the doctor split open his head, and she popped out.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's another funny, God birthing story. But I guess well, he was listening to Athena before. Telemachus was listening to Athena before. So why did he have to take? She have to take another form to say this message? Do you think?
So one thing she came to him. She came to him before disguised as a chieftain. Here, I believe it's because it's logical that. I don't have a 100% answer to that, so I don't want to mislead. And if somebody else has a different hypothesis, please state it. But I believe it's because it makes sense that Mentor's at this meeting, and because he's a person who lives in the town, and then she never really reveals, like, you never interact with a god in their true form. But Athena comes down to help Telemachus and act as a human and kind of make things happen. So she talked to Telemachus. She's starting the voyage. She encouraged him, have this meeting so you can go on a voyage. Here now she's being like, okay, she's kind of acting as a leader in the city, being like, okay, yes, he can handle this voyage, and let's get a ship with 20 people and get him on his way. So I think she's kind of moving the process along and actually saying, okay, we as a town are deciding Telemachus is going to go on this voyage. So she's kind of making things happen that she wants to happen.
Do we know about these 20 people? Like,
I believe
who they are?
They will be characters in the upcoming books. But I think at this point they're just there's nothing special about them at this point. They're just men who are going to accompany Telemachus on his journey, and they're not. I'm trying to think if anything comes up. But yeah, no, I think at this point they're just kind of characters who are going to be. We know that he's going to go on a voyage with 20 people, and certainly not all of them are important, but they're gonna show up. Telemachus is saying, "I'm going to go get my father. You guys are going to get kicked out of the house." And one of the suitors says this. So you want to pick up here, Tiffany?
Mm-hmm. One young, top-lofty gallant set the tone. Well, think of that. Telemachus has a mind to murder us. He's going to lead avengers out of Pylos or Sparta, maybe. Oh, he's wild to do it. Or else he'll try the fat land of Ephyra. He can get poisoned there and bring it home, doctor the wine jar and dispatch us all.
Beautiful. Keep going.
This is another person. That was the drift of it. Telemachus went on through to the storeroom of his father, a great vault where gold and bronze lay piled along with chests of clothes and fragrant oil, and there were jars of earthenware in rows, holding an old wine, mellow, unmixed, and rare. Cool stood the jars against the wall, kept for whatever day Odysseus, worn by hardships, might come home.
And then you can keep going here. And this is now Telemachus.
Okay, and this is Telemachus.
Yeah, Telemachus. Thank you.
Nurse, get a few two-handled traveling jugs filled up with wine. The second best, not that you keep for your unlucky lord and king. Hoping he may have slipped away from death and may yet come again, Royal Odysseus.
Perfect. Okay, so do you want to kind of summarize this page?
Yep. So the first section is one of the suitors saying Telemachus isn't actually going out to find Odysseus. He's going to recruit the other nations of Greece to help out with murdering all the suitors, such as getting poison to poison all the wine and hence kill all the suitors in one go. And then the next section is saying that I believe that it's Telemachus deciding he's going to go to the storeroom where Odysseus's riches lay, and he's going to gather stuff to help him on his journey, including a wine which was kept for Odysseus when he would be weary and come home one day.
That's
and
perfect.
Nurse, presumably his servant or nurse, he's specifically asked her to get amphorae, these traveling jugs.
Yep. So that's good. Okay, so that's great.
Prepping.
So I think the yes. So the first one I think is a good point. I think the only thing I want to add to the first one, I totally agree with what you said, is that it's the suitors are not actually afraid. It's kind of mocking. They're not actually afraid. So I totally agree with what you said. But they're like, oh, what is it? He's gonna do this, but he's not really perceived as a threat. So that's, and apart from that, I think this looks very good. I'm trying to remember why I highlighted this. The one thing I'm wondering is if I think I might have just thought this was cool, because of you kind of get some insight into the ancient Greek home here. So there's a storeroom, a great vault where gold and bronze lay piled across chests of clothes, oil, jars of earthenware in rows with old wine, yeah. And so I'm not actually 100% certain why I chose to have that part. And then he gets that from the, get the second best. He's got two jugs, or get the second best. I want the second best jug of wine. I don't want the very best jug of wine because we're going to give that to Odysseus when he comes home. I'm not exactly sure why I picked that in, but I guess probably just because I thought it was cool and showed something about the ancient Greek house. So, Tiffany, you read so fast and this page is so short. So you've got 2 more paragraphs on this page.
Lovely. Now keep this to yourself. Collect these things, and after dark, when mother has retired and gone upstairs to bed, I'll come for them. I sail to sandy Pylos, then to Sparta, to see what news there is of father's voyage.
Beautiful.
So this is Telemachus. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yes, exactly right. So he says, right, exactly what you just said. Get these things, and I'm going to go and start on the voyage. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the goddess with gray eyes had other business. Disguised as Telemachus, she roamed the town, taking each likely man aside and telling him, "Meet us at nightfall at the ship."
Perfect. Oh. That's perfect. So, who is the goddess with gray eyes, Tiffany?
Athena. Athena has intervened yet again to help Telemachus and is gathering men who she knows will help him or will follow him to tell them to come join him.
Exactly. Exactly right. So she's doing. So look at that, Thomas. We're already getting a little insight that these men are well picked. They're picked by the goddess of wisdom. So they're gonna be well picked men to support the journey. So sounds good. Okay, Tiffany. Anything else you wanna comment on in that section? I mean, I don't have anything. I'm just curious.
I don't think there's anything too interesting aside from the fact that it's very clear this one specific woman, this nurse, we don't mention her name as we read, but her name's like Yuri Close something. But it's clearly he trusts her very much because it was a servant who actually gave away Penelope's unraveling, but clearly Telemachus trusts this different servant. So it's not a. So the story isn't telling you servants are bad or untrustworthy. They're saying be careful who you trust. And also, this is probably an older woman. So this is sort of contrary to the previous old person we had. This is a trustworthy older person. This is probably the
Yeah.
person who nursed Telemachus because he calls her nurse. She probably helped raise him as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. She helped raise him. Absolutely. So yeah. So one of the things, like, what is a nurse in the ancient world? A lot of times it's about raising children. Absolutely, absolutely.
I could go again if
Go for it. I'll
It's
hand it
not
to
working
Malika
for
next.
others.
I'll hand it to Malika or Cassie next.
Then to Telemachus, the gray-eyed goddess appeared again, with Mentor's form and voice, calling him out of the lofty, emptied hall. Telemachus, your crew of fighting men is ready, and at the oars waiting for you. Come on, no point in holding up the sailing.
Perfect.
He turned and led the way. Oh, you want me to stop and chat about it, or?
No, keep going.
Okay. He turned and led the way, and they came after, carried and stowed all of the well-trimmed ship, as the dear son Odysseus commanded. Gray-eyed Athena stirred them, a following wind, stowing,
I guess.
from the from the northwest, from the wind-dark sea.
Wine dark
and
sea.
the wine-dark sea, and he felt the wind. Telemachus called to all hands to break out the mast and sail.
Perfect. And then there's one. I think there's. Let's actually pause here. So what just happened?
Athena, dressed as Mentor again, said, "Let's get going. Everybody's waiting for you." And then they set sail, and then the gods are on their side and blowing the wind in the right direction.
Beautiful. 100% right. That's exactly what happened. Only thing I want to comment on here is a small little literary piece. It's just this wine dark sea is something that comes up. It comes up in chapter 1. It appears here. It appears all over. There's a ton of interest in this word. One, because it's what is it called? An epithet, where the wine dark sea is just something that we hear again and again. The wine dark sea, the wine dark sea, the wine dark sea. The second thing that's interesting about it is that we don't really perceive the sea as resembling wine in any sense. We don't perceive the sea as looking like wine. So there's always a kind of a question of what is meant by this. A lot of people, like a lot of academics, have different interpretations, because obviously wine is purple, essentially. Red wine is essentially purple. And the sea is, especially if you look at the Aegean Sea, where the Greeks would be, it is very blue. It is like shiny, shiny blue. So it's a very interesting. It's a word that a lot of people have interest in. So sorry about that point. Okay, I do see that Cassie has successfully unmuted, and since we only have one more little section here, I'm going to give it to you, Cassie.
Is it because it's night?
It could be. It could be. It's a good hypothesis. I just know that, so I've taken some ancient Greek classes, and when that word comes up, that's the commentary is that, like, there's a lot of, but I don't believe it's night that they're taking off here. Do we know if it's night?
I feel like he's trying to get around the suitors in a certain sense, or maybe that's just my interpretation. But
No,
he's
you
like
could be
kind of
right.
sneaking off with everybody.
It could definitely be white right now, but there's plenty of times that it's the wine dark sea, even when it's not night. So it's just it's a good hypothesis, actually. I haven't heard that one examined, but I haven't heard much about it. Also, I did hear a lot about it like 2 years ago. I can't remember anymore, but it's just a word that a lot of academics are interested in. So, anyways, sounds good. So, Cassie, let me hand you this, because I do need to head out in about 7 minutes at the latest.
All right. Um, Now they made all secure in the fast black ship and setting out the wine bowls all a brim, they made libations to the gods. The underlying, the ever new, most of all, the gray eyed daughter of Zeus. And they prow sheer through the night into the dawn.
Very nice. Thank you. So I'm just going to comment on this, or just Tiffany, do you know what libations are? Libations to the gods?
No, but I can make a guess that this is probably an offering to the gods to like essentially for safe passage and to keep them safe.
Absolutely. And that's it. That's it. That's it exactly. So what it is in terms of, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, yay.
Okay. So one of the things that's interesting here is the like libations. One of the things that the ancient Greeks do all the time is dump out wine to the gods. So they literally just dump it on the ground. And like the same thing you hear in the Old Testament, the ancient Israelites, you'll hear about like your burnt offerings, blah blah blah. There's this only the German word Vorstellungs come to my mind. There's this like what is it called? There's this mental thought. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but there's this conception. There we go. That you need to actually, one of the ways that the how you actually nourish the gods in a certain sense is that you dump wine onto the ground for them, and you can also burn animals. Abraham. Why does Abraham sacrifice a goat to Yahweh in the story of Abraham? It's because the gods want you to kill an animal and burn it, and don't eat any of it, burn it, and that's kind of how they get their energy. That is a real conceptualization. I don't recall exactly I don't know if this was the Greeks or a different ancient Near Eastern culture, but there was this like belief that one of the reasons why the gods created humans was so that the humans could go and make these sacrifices to them, and that's essentially how the gods eat. Obviously, you will hear ambrosia, which is the nectar of the gods as well. So I don't think it's the Greeks as I'm saying that, but that is like that's a conception essentially in one of the ancient Near Eastern cultures. So making these sacrifices to the gods is very important, and it keeps the gods very happy. So that's what they've done here. They've just dumped out some wine for Athena specifically, the gray-eyed daughter of Zeus. So okay, perfect. And that's how they start their voyage. So now Telemachus has set off with 20 men selected by Athena to go and find out more information about his father. So that's how book 2 ends. So you guys have now read book 2 of the Odyssey. Yay! Any questions, comments?
Thank you so much. It was fun.
Good. So a couple things. Just really quick, if you guys had a good time today, I'm trying to do this whole I'm doing this whole thing as a series. I'm planning to read all the books of the Odyssey. So join me if you want to join again. I'm doing this. As I said at the beginning, I said this at the beginning. I guess Thomas, I'm realizing you came in a little bit later. I'm recording this. I'm not recording any of your faces. You are on my monitor over here. I'm recording here. So your faces are not in it. I'm trying to start a YouTube channel as well. So that's one of the things I'm doing. I am the kind of like founder of PassionClass, this website where you can take, if there's things that you're interested in and you know a lot about, you can either teach a class or take a class on it. A part of that is, of course, to let people know about this website, PassionClass. Like, come check it out. There's cool things happening on it. There's a lot of classes you can do. I do also teach software engineering classes, but I teach, my 2 specializations are kind of software engineering and ancient literature. So those are things that I do. But there's like painting, there's piano, there's Spanish, like and there's also like cooking. There's all sorts of stuff. So that's one point, but completely separate from that. If you had a good time, this whole Odyssey series is just going to be like this, open, going to be reading together. I do have a copy of a graphic novel, so I'm actually going to use the graphic novel, I think, to summarize the last chapter, and then we'll read kind of selections of each book where you get the gist of what happened in the original language in the sense of a translation, not just a summary. And that's the plan. So if you had a good time, I would love it if you would join for the next. I believe it's every 2 weeks at this time, and I can double check that. Final point, and I'll let you guys comment and give me any feedback you have, anything like that. One, if you want me to send you a reminder to join, give me your email address, and I will send you a reminder. And that's my email. I just wrote it in the chat. It's joe@passionclass.co. Easy to remember. It rhymes even. There's no dot. It's not .com. It's .co. So let me know if there's any feedback or any question you have. Just reach out to me, and I will get back to you. So awesome.
What translation of the Odyssey is this?
This is, so before you got here, we were using a different one. I'm pretty sure this is by Fitzgerald. Give me 1 second. Translated by Robert Fitzgerald. That's who it is. So I have the Robert Fitzgerald translation. That's the one that I think I'm going to keep using because I do like this.